please rise, and our new team is going to play America the Beautiful. Thank you. Sue, do you have the invocation?
Yes. Bow your heads, please. Eternal God, we offer our gratitude for this moment, for springtime and the renewal it brings, for food, for our time together with friends, and for this day's work. Grant the gifts of insight and wisdom for our work. Give faithfulness and honesty to all. Bless our world with your peace. Amen.
Thank you, Sue. Mike, any guests?
We have some really interesting guests today, and first one is walking away from the piano. Good morning, young lady. This is Catherine Raynock, who is here giving us a wonderful interview this morning. Thank you, Catherine. We have some other guests this morning. Brian Johnson, who is a gift of John Triska. Brian, welcome. Brian. Brian. And Frank Mascherani. Where's Frank? Who's a guest of Steve Gould. Good to see you. And our speakers who will be introduced by Lexa this morning. Okay?
All right, thank you very much, Mike. So last week, if any of you watched TV, you saw a historical event, okay? And that event was Tiger Woods winning the Masters again after a 14-year hiatus. Well, John Triska's buddy, Brian, who won the tickets, is here this morning. And I just asked him to say a few words about how fun it was to be standing behind Tiger Woods on the 18th hole watching him win.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, what a great event. The Masters was, but the event that the Rotary Club puts on. So thank you first and foremost. I also brought a little something back for you guys. So you can put this on the table next year for raffles. It's a Masters branded putter head cover.
I think this is one of my
I don't even know what to say. I'm still riding the high right now. Sunday morning, got to the course about 4 a.m. Was one of the first 100 people in line. So my colleague has a little trouble walking the course. So not running, you can't run at Augusta, but I stepped it all the way to the 18th green. In fact, as Tiger comes in, his third shot was right in front of me. So if you look at the pictures, the Rotary Club, I wish I would have had some Rotary Club stuff down there. But we were all over the internet. So again, appreciate it. If you get a chance to get in the raffle next year, do it. It's an unbelievable experience. Nice. So thank you for an unforgettable experience this last week.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Everyone, I just want to mention that Brian purchased how many raffle tickets?
9 myself.
$900 he invested, and it worked.
Yeah.
And worth every penny, I'm sure. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks for the support.
Wow. Awesome.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's just a little excitement for people who don't know what the Masters is about. Even if you don't golf, it's one of the most gratifying experiences to watch really good golfers hit the little white ball. All right. I don't have any announcements this morning. We'll start with Bob. I think we have a few.
Sorry I wasn't here last week. I had a prepared speech. I had to revise it. Everyone is familiar with the story of David and Goliath. I'm not sure when that happened, but it was definitely a long time ago. It happened again, twice in the Lehigh Valley. Last October, the Exeter Eagles field hockey team / David beat the Red Rovers from Easton Goliath easily, 5-0. It happened again Monday night a week ago. The star of the game, of course, was Peyton Halsey. The coach scheduled some games with teams from up here to give them a chance. So she plays also field hockey, but that's her main sport, but she plays lacrosse. The Exeter Eagles, David, beat Goliath, the mighty Parkland Trojans, in 12-11 in overtime. Exeter only has about 1,000 students in their high school versus Easton with 3,000 versus Parkland with 4,000. Now, I think it's just an oversight that week, that's a week ago, somehow that score and that write-up never made the morning call. It's just an oversight, I'm sure, but it's never made the morning call. And that's, I also, someone suggested to me, I'm always bragging about my granddaughter, well, in her field hockey 4 years, she scored 106 goals. That was the best in the league, best in her team. She was MVP of everything you could think of. She would have scored a lot more, but whenever their team got 8 or 9 scores up, they would take out the first team, put it in the JV. So she scored 106 goals, and I have a check here for $106, $1 per goal, for the Rotary International Foundation. So that gave me
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Gary.
Hello.
I think that's a fine. Okay?
For you, because you didn't specify.
It's obviously on me. I'll pay it to one.
Two Garys, so that's 2 fines.
There's one fine for 2 Garys.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to say thank you for the Rotarians who came out on Saturday over to Canals House. It was a little soggy, a little daunting. It was heavy. The leaves were pretty darn heavy, but Bill Erdman, Mike Epperly, and Judge Doug Reichley were all out there on Saturday morning. It took us a couple hours, got it done. Everything's done. It's all good to go. We don't need. I know it was in the newsletter that we're looking to do it again on the following Saturday. We don't need to. We finished it on Saturday. So.
All right.
Gary Rohrbach.
Thank you. Good morning. I am the chairperson for our joint project of Area 1. It's the 5 clubs, Emmaus, Sladington, Whitehall, Allentown, and Allentown West. Our joint project is at the Second Harvest Food Bank. And a first clarification, the first email I had sent out, Gary pointed out to me that I had the incorrect address. I had 6969 Silver Creek Road, Nazareth, and that's wrong. It's Silver Crest Road, okay? Because if you go to look in your GPS for Silver Creek, it's not there. The Silver Crest is, okay. In any event, I had the presidents of the 4 other clubs get back to me, and I had said if we could get 4 or 5 members from each club, you know, they figured having about 20 volunteers there would be great, and we already have the 20, including, I think there were 6 here from Emmaus, and that's wonderful. Now, I know the weather is kind of iffy for Saturday. If in fact there's rain, we are still going to, we can do some of the work indoors, because what it is Home Depot had donated 25 of these planter boxes. So what we have to do is assemble them, and then we're going to place them outside, put cardboard down, and we're going to fill them with topsoil. Okay. Well, the topsoil, the manager at Second Harvest said, no, she's just too afraid it's going to be muddy, so that's going to be at a later date. Okay. But the assembling of the boxes and whatnot, you know, we're going to give it a go. So I'm planning to be there either way, no matter what the weather is, and you know, whoever can make it, you know, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. Jim Palmquist.
Board elections, if you didn't get a ballot, let me know, and I'll collect ballots during the meeting.
Mr. Chiska.
For the past 4 years or so, we've the Emmaus Rotary has been doing the Loma Country Community Day. So that's going to be May 7th. We have a table again. I need a couple more volunteers. I believe I have 2 volunteers so far. We have 2 shifts, 4 to 6 and 6 to 8. We normally get a good amount of foot traffic. Everybody's local. A lot of kids are there. We normally give out some tchotchkes. So if you have the time, please let me know. Thank you.
I have a feel-good story this morning that it's interesting how things happen sometimes. My mother-in-law turned 100 on April 7th. And so we had a party at our house, and the next day, she's at Devon House now, the next day they had some festivities for her, a big cake and a crown, and it's interesting seeing an 80-pound woman with a crown on her head. It was odd. But anyway, my wife told me that she got 100 cards from some school, and she talked to the person who set this up from Devon House. She said, well, Linda thought it was some elementary school. She checked into it. Long story short, it came from the Interact Club at Salisbury High School. I just thought, and it turned out that the advisor is someone my wife worked with in Salisbury School District. I just thought that was really nice that an Interact Club who doesn't know Mary Thomas from anyone went out of their way, made these 100 cards, and I truthfully just made her day. Being, believe me, there aren't a lot of good things when you're 100. Trust me, 100 cards was really very special. Just a feel good story.
So we have one more feel-good story before we talk to Eileen. Everybody knows we have the conference coming up, okay? Cindy told me this morning we have 240 people signed up for that. That is fantastic. It's a record. The second thing is Sue Strader has been busting her back trying to get people to give money to help offset the cost of this conference. She's done it, okay? She's made it. I think we're about at break even. Is that correct?
No, actually, as a result of this, and thank you, Emmaus Rotarians, we have now paid for Craig Thatcher and most of the AV, which means all our proceeds will go back to hunger projects, and thus far, our club has one of the most people coming, so we will get our money back.
Sue, thank you so much.
It's really
for your hard work.
exciting. Record numbers.
There's Rotarians here and across the district who pay. I'm just the ask.
It was the persistence behind the ask.
I'm a nagger.
Thank you so much.
We heard that from Ray.
Right.
Friendly reminder, Beef and Beer is a week from today. We are raffling off 2 tickets to the U.S. Open. Just kidding. I wish that would have been awesome. But that's a good story. I'm glad it was a good trip. I'll make sure I buy like 15 to guarantee but no, 1 week from today, Beef and Beer event, $50 a ticket. Proceeds go towards the foundation. I've been preaching this for a while, so it's going to be a fun event, a good event. Come out, support it, $50, and we'll go from there. Thanks.
There'll be a quick committee meeting after this meeting. Eric?
And just to follow up on what Bryce was saying as well, we have 2 awesome events coming up back to back. Great time for us as business owners to reward our clients by suggesting maybe we buy some tickets for them for Beef and Beer and send our clients a great event like that. Or the Craig Thatcher concert coming on that Saturday evening for us is another great event coming for. I know we've got a lot of stuff going on, but it just shows how strong we are as a Rotary Club. We're able to pull these things off. So again, if you haven't registered for the conference, please do so. Even if you're just coming for a Saturday night's concert with Craig Thatcher, bring some food, because again, we're looking to feed the hungry. So whatever you can do, it is the make it or break it time for us. And again, Sue, thanks for the huge efforts you have done on getting that money raised, and that's it's a huge effort on her part that's been doing that. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Eileen.
I got a note from Lori Fine from the Angel Network. She said, another year of wonderful support from everyone to make our food program successful. The spring baskets went out last week. Here are some of the numbers. 165 East Penn families were helped. Over 25 different items in each basket. We had over 1,200 boxes of mac and cheese, 350 bags of carrots, 420 laundry detergents, and 1,500 toothbrushes to go with our toothpaste. And more than 400 gift cards from Weiss and Giant were given in clothing, hoodies, socks, all kinds of clothing. We're so grateful for everyone's support. It takes all of us to make this happen, and the East Penn community always steps up. Thank you. Laurie Fine.
Thank you, Ellen.
Just a quick announcement. When we do our fundraiser for the golf, you can go to ercgolf.com, Brian, when you sign up for next year and spend $1,500 more on tickets. It's great. But for the beef and beer, we also have ercbnb.com. So if you guys think last minute you didn't get a ticket, you just can go online, ercbnb.com.
Thank you. Sal.
Will our newest member pick the first picker? One I came to the bottom.
Top one.
Okay, last 3 digits, 991.
Nine.
999.
I know.
983.
Oh, sure.
Congratulations, John. Thank you very much, Sal. Moving on to our Sergeant at Arms.
I guess I gotta be quick.
Yes.
Yep.
Does anybody see Dee Ang here?
No.
Okay, so some do and some don't. See, there's a check that she's having breakfast, but there's no signature, so I'm assuming she's not here today. And I'm assuming there'll be a fine forthcoming.
Gary will pay us $25.
And how much do I get from you for fine? How much you have?
$2.
$2. That's all you have in your pocket?
Empty the wallet.
That's, you have one more dollar.
And it was amazing. People are paying. I wasn't here last week. I had a dog issue. And people who were trying to pay fines couldn't, so now they're giving me the money that Steve was supposed to collect. So, fine. Okay.
I thought I did a good job. You did a good job.
You did a great job. And you were late today, and I'm glad your guests are not learning from you. They're coming before time to sign up.
I have them today.
And find a good seat here, too. That's the best part. We don't have a lot of time. Happiness. How much happiness is out there? Happy dollars? Sue?
I have $5 for Catherine. Yay!
Karen?
My son got his pilot's license this week. So.
I have $2 happy. I'm happy to have the opportunity to play here today, but I just wanted to say I'm raising money for pediatric cancer through my school's Rockathon. And over the years, we've raised thousands of dollars, and all the money goes directly to Lehigh Valley Hospital, to the pediatric cancer wing there. So if you'd like to make a donation, you can see me after the meeting. So thank you.
Mr. Gould?
I'll just give a quick 3, 1 to Frank coming, 1 for Barry joining, and 1 for Brian Johnson making it here.
I have $10 happy for the Emmaus Rotary family.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Other happiness? Say your role, program boss.
Thank you. We have one more, I think, feel-good story. Gary, did something come in this week that we found out about?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. We've had a little bit of a delay here, but Mays Rotary Club's grant for last year was to purchase a kangaroo chair, and if you don't know what a kangaroo chair is, please go look it up online, but it's basically a chair for mothers and fathers to hold their child close to them. It kind of puts them in the right position. We bought it for the NICU unit over in Lehigh Valley Hospital. So we partnered with Lily's Hope, and everything's done, and it's installed, and hopefully we'll get over there to do a little photo op. So thanks everyone. That was a nice grant. I think the total was 2,500 or somewhere in that neighborhood. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Gary.
Good morning. I learned what a RAG is. A Rotary Action Group. And we can have one too. We have with us today guests from the Bethlehem Rotary. They are members of the executive board. And Dee Dee Foran is a part-time, trying to retire consultant for DG pension?
GF pension.
GF pension. And Patrick is a physical therapist, but their interest has been to find out about sex trafficking in the Lehigh Valley.
Try this thing out. Yes, no? Here we go. Okay. Well, thank you all for having us. I'm a fairly new Rotarian, but one thing I can say is, having traveled a little bit since I've been a Rotarian, is how amazing the people are once they find out you are a Rotarian all around the country, at least. So, thank you again for having us here. Definitely appreciate it. Let's appreciate the introduction. Do want to define something, just a little correction. Our interest is not entirely in finding out about the sex trafficking industry. It's about preventing it as well. So, unfortunately, we're going to be talking about a little heavy topic here, but we're excited to share some of the stuff that we've learned as we've taken this project underway. Dee Dee has been the driving force of this. She's had an interest when she found out about what's going on around the country and the world, and she proposed this about a year ago, a little over a year ago now. And so we've been working hard this past year, and it's amazing what we've learned about the topic, and we're happy to be here to help share what we've found out. So who are we? We're the Bethlehem Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. RAGIS would be the acronym. So apparently in Rotary we have these action groups, and I'm learning about this as we go. And these action groups are set up so that way each club can establish one. I'm just going to shout if that's all right. It's a little claustrophobic there. Can you all hear me okay? I can use a handheld? You can use a handheld. That might be better. Does this work? Okay. Great. So we'll give that a shot. So we formed an action group against slavery just this past year. And one of the things we've been learning about is what's going on with human trafficking. It's the #2 largest industry, all right, criminal industry in the world, but it's the fastest growing. There's some common misconceptions about human trafficking in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to the sex industry, about being a victimless crime. They choose to be there. Everybody thinks it's not in their community, but this is everywhere. That's one thing we're learning. Right here in the Lehigh Valley, all over little neighborhoods. And out our way, East Allen Township is one that's been on the major news in the Lehigh Valley and down towards the Philly news networks about how they've cracked down and stopped some sex trafficking that's going on, but it's still just very, very pervasive. Okay? Some misconceptions, especially when it comes to prostitution. Most of us think, in some cases, they chose to be in this profession. But one thing that we're starting to find out is that big number up there, 80 plus, close to 95%, is pimp controlled, meaning people, victims, children, women, are actually impressed into this industry in some way. And we'll talk about that a little bit, what that actually is defined as in a little bit. But look at the age of entry. We're talking about children, 12, 13. That's the average age getting into the sex industry. A lot of people think, well, it's to support a drug habit, but one thing the data has borne out is people that are forced into the sex industry actually become addicted to drugs, not to satisfy their habits. And as far as thinking, well, we should have that open ability to allow prostitution. It's something that they do, I think, in Las Vegas. Things we're learning is it's just not the neighborhood, working down at the neighborhood gas station or anything. There are more people killed in this industry than any other industry. And the next one is being in a liquor store. But it's a 51% higher homicide rate working there. And once someone's in the sex industry, the victims in this case, they have a lifespan on average of 7 years. That's not till they get out, that's till they die. So it's a heavy topic. This is an example of someone who's likely gone through that 7-year process, a couple of people. These are pictures, you can look this up, it's on the web. Like I said, second largest criminal industry, but it's the fastest growing in the world. And that's why we want to try to get out on top of this. One of the reasons why it's the fastest growing is in the drug trade, once somebody consumes a product, that product's done, they still have to reharvest it. When you actually have someone in the industry, they get to be used over and over and over and over and over again. So, by definitions, what are trafficking? So a trafficked person is forced, someone used fraud against them or coerced them into some sort of work. One of the ones that's most common that we're targeting here in the Lehigh Valley is the sex trafficking industry. A lot of times these people that are pimp controlled, the pimps either use direct force or they psychologically manipulate them to coerce them into staying in the situation that they're in. Here's just some examples of how that happens. Physical force is one, but the emotional force, the emotional abuse is another. Being sexually assaulted over and over, just breaking someone's spirit. Being threatened. Once pimps get the sexual trafficked victims into the industry and they get them hooked on the drugs, then all of a sudden they have something to hold over them. Well, I know you're in pain, I can help you, but you have to go work for me first. I just put up there a definition of sex trafficking victim. So with sex trafficking, it's the commercial sex act is induced by force, fraud, or coercion. Those three characteristics that we spoke about just before. Or in the case of someone under the age of 18, or someone harboring, transporting, putting provisions for, obtaining a person for labor or service. There is labor trafficking as well. But again, it's through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. So these people aren't necessarily, well, like the misconception would be, choosing to be there. They're there because someone either forced them there by physical means, used some sort of coercion means, all right, or told them they were going to get something that they weren't ever going to get. Another statistic, about 300,000 children from America, not people brought into America, but from America, were in the sex industry. And that's a 2011 stat. One of the things that we've learned about this is trying to find qualified information is not easy. This is not a topic that a lot of people want to dive into and really want to go and explore. It's a hard topic. So some of the data that we have from decent sources is a little bit dated. So the assumption being that since it's the fastest growing, that number's a whole lot bigger today. Again, some more statistics. Generally, you have women and girls being some of the most trafficked people in the country. Here's a slide just showing that we also have labor trafficking. So an example of this that may not be as prevalent up here, but I did live down in North Carolina for a while, the migrant worker population. A lot of them, they're told, oh yes, you can come here and it's a better life and you can come work for us, but then on those plantations, well, we're gonna pay you $20 for the day, but we're gonna charge you $19 a day to live in the house we're providing for you, and that extra dollar, that's for your food. Something along those lines. That would be an example of labor trafficking. Other areas where you'll find people, you have laborers, you have construction workers, nail salons, a lot of people that are being paid under the table in many cases. Food service, common area, even movie theaters, spas, cash businesses, fast food restaurants as well. Into the sex trafficking, things that you think of are brothels, but there's also the street workers. That's the common image possibly in the movies. Inside prostitution, dancers, the massage parlors, pornography industry, and again into the spas, where you think you're going into a place for a massage, but then they offer those specials. So a typical sex quota would be 5 customers a night at somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a night. So you can see how profitable it is. That's using that, I guess in this term you would say asset, for a return. It's very lucrative, which is why you have a PIP-controlled industry. But if you go and do the numbers throughout the entire year, you're looking at over 1,800 forced sexual encounters for one sex trafficking victim. So here's what we're here for. What can Rotary do? So in our Rotary group, our action group, we are looking into first community education. Some of us have been to some of the movies that we've put on, and we've offered these screenings at Moravian College, and there's some other things going on as well. But we've offered 2 screenings at Moravian College thus far, and we have other events that Dee Dee's going to speak about. But we want to get that out there. One of the hardest things to draw attention to this topic is, well, the nature of the topic's not pleasant. So we're trying to go and get people involved to understand that yes, it's happening, yes, it's in our neighborhoods, and that there is something we can do about it to shift the mindset of, oh, I'm just going to look the other way or not acknowledge that it's here. So we have to kind of take ownership of that. So we're out there for community education. Then the other viewpoint that we see ourselves is, as especially Dee Dee's been asking around, we've been finding out that there's not a lot of system. There's not a system out there to deal with people. So I alluded to the East Allen Township. Rick, I'm sorry, what's Rick's last name? So there's a police officer from East Allen Township, and I'm going to forget his last name. I apologize for that. But he was the one who's been featured in the news, and they started to set up these things. And what he found was they lure someone in on the dark web or via phone calls into a hotel room, but in many cases they actually lure a prostitute in as well. And in some cases, all of a sudden he says, we're doing this for the first time, we think we got to start stopping this in our community, cleaning up one of the local hotels that's kind of a blight in the area. And all of a sudden the women start saying, help me get out of here. And he says, where do I put you? What do we do with you? There's nothing set up. So there's been an initiation of creating what do we do to help people get out of the industry, but right now, there's very little for them. So with the education, as I said, removing the stigma of the sex trafficking victims, creating a change in our culture. Then the other part is a consortium or a task force formation to kind of help network a bunch of people from the community in the areas of social work, police force, and the medical community, general overall wellness community. These people need to kind of get together, and we have to figure out, what do we do when this happens? Where do we put somebody in the short term? How long do we help them out for? How much money is it going to take? These are a lot of numbers that some people are starting to just scratch the surface about, but we haven't put it all together yet. So, does anybody have, so timeline for that. as with anything with Rotary, what's our timeline? Well, we're going to try and do this, as long as it takes to kind of get these task forces in place. Or, hopefully, once we start to meld people together, other resources may take over for us. All right? We are hopeful that in the next 2 to 3 years, that we will have encouraged enough education in the community to get this ball rolling so that we actually can affect some more meaningful, purposeful change and help save the lives of trafficking victims and the consciousness of society to not support or look away from such a horrible industry. And then, is there any questions? Yes.
I just want to say, so everybody knows, Rotary International has several of these action groups. In our club, we have a member in Water and Sanitation and Peace. However, this is the first time an action group has been started in our district, and we need to applaud the Bethlehem Club. But furthermore, just so you know, in my talking to other clubs, there are some other clubs who now have an interest. The Bethlehem Club has applied for a grant with the Rotary Foundation to be able to do community, get it out there. And at the district conference in the House of Friendship, they will have a table. So please make sure and visit it because it's more active than we know. And I wanted to call you, I haven't had the chance, but there are some other clubs now who are very interested in trying to take the model to get the community to know. So this is a first, and it's really needed, so thank you.
There's a great video I saw a while back. It purports to be a training video that they'll show to utility workers, and it looks like your typical public service announcements showing guys out in the field working on the line or reading the gas meter. And then they go back and they show, now look at what you missed, and they'll show like the people literally carrying a kid into the house in a laundry basket, or the guys in the house looking at the meter and you notice that there's an outside lock on the bedroom door, and they focus in that these are the things that go on in plain sight that they're trying to teach utility workers, because they're out in the community to spot these things and maybe see that something. But it was weird. You watched this video and you didn't see any of it, and then they slowed it down. You're like, how did I not see that? Because you're not thinking about it. You're thinking about watching the utility worker waiting for him to fall off the ladder or something.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yes?
I just want to say thank you for sharing this. So I'm on a board called Community Partners for Kids. I know Steve Gould is on it, Bob Rust is on it, Clay Smith is the one who runs it. So this is a really heavy topic, but it's an important topic to know and to be aware of, and it's happening, this kind of stuff is happening right here in the Lehigh Valley, to the point where there's been instances over at the new Target where you think it's Hamilton Crossings and Whole Foods and, high-end shopping, yada, 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 but this stuff is happening in every community we live, and specifically in the Lehigh Valley, because it's viewed as the elbow between New York and Philadelphia for sex trafficking, and there are organizations such as what you're creating, the one that I'm involved with is basically educating youth to be aware, how to bring parents to be aware of this stuff. So it's a really, really serious topic, and I'm shocked, my own peers who are ignorant to this stuff saying, no, that doesn't happen, that's not real, but it is. I mean, it's happening every day. I mean, pay attention in the morning call, to JP's point. Slow down and watch things, or read the paper, and I guarantee every single week in the local paper you'll find an article about something that got busted between prostitution, sex trafficking, or something of that nature. So kudos to you for coming out and speaking about it. I think this is a great topic to continue to keep beating the drum. I have young kids at home, so it's important to, if you're aware, there's nothing to be afraid of, but if you're unaware, that's where you really need to be concerned. So, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for your endeavor. I'd like to introduce Dee Dee to kind of explain some of the other avenues and the events that we have upcoming as well. So here's our chairman, Dee Dee.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. I could talk about this for an hour, and I know I only have 5 minutes. I do want to inform you, and I've put a brochure on everyone's table, of some of the events that we have going. We're lucky enough to get some help from the Easton Club this year, And one of the reasons why we're here is to create awareness. But we also want your help. We want you to come join our club or join our efforts in the Rotary Action Group. Come to our meetings if you'd like. We have about 10 people in the Bethlehem Club that are very interested in this topic, but we need more than 10 people. So I would welcome you to come and join us if you'd like, or start your own group if you'd like. But let me tell you some of the things that we're doing. We've created a brochure, and we have 2 events coming up, awareness type events. So the first one is Saturday, November the 9th. It's going to be at the Arts Quest Banco Theater. We are going to, it's a documentary that was filmed here in Pennsylvania, totally in Pennsylvania. It's a 2-hour documentary. It has not been shown publicly anywhere. A couple of places in New Jersey, a couple of places in South Philly, but I was unaware of how much money it takes to create a film like this and to get it into film festivals, and it's just so much red tape. But they're coming and they're going to screen that, and we are sponsoring it. We actually have created an awareness week. November the 2nd through the 9th is the Lehigh Valley Anti-Trafficking Week. So we've proclaimed that they're going to have a press conference and everything about it. So we'll have other things going on that week as well. But that's the one activity that we're having. The other one is March the 5th to 2020 at Moravian College. We're going to have a symposium. And it'll be a half-a-day symposium with breakfast. But we're working with the Department of Health and Human Services. They're going to have speakers from Homeland Security, law enforcement, local politicians, anti-trafficking agencies. There are quite a few in the area, but they're all nonprofit. And they're all struggling. They all need money. We also hope to have a survivor there of sex trafficking. I think it'll be a wonderful event, but we need help to put it together, so we'd love for you to help us with that. We're sort of in the groundbreaking planning stages of that. I want to tell you why I got involved with this. Is that I went to Atlanta to the conference, the Rotary International Conference, 2 years ago. Did anybody go to that? Okay, good. There was a woman on stage who was a survivor, beautiful woman, and she was standing in front of 40,000 people. She was a beautiful lady. She was dressed well. She was college educated. She is not what you would think a prostitute looks like. But she got on stage and told her story in front of all of these people, and it was just amazing. It captured the audience. And then afterward, they had a breakout session that I attended. Was anyone able to get into this? Because I went, and there were hundreds of people in line to try to get into the room, and it was at capacity, but I was able to get into the room. And we sat there for an hour and a half, and we listened to stories all over the world, and pictures all over the world of children in cages, in dog cages, living in dog cages that were pulled out to have sex 6-8 times a day. And we all left. Everyone in the room was crying. I had to go to the restroom because I was weeping so much. And I just thought, we've got to do something about this. And then when I came back and started learning more about it, I realized this is going on here too. It's not just in China and India. It is happening here in the Lehigh Valley. Another thing I want to tell you about, if you don't believe me, is there is a film on PBS that I was able to screen a couple of weeks ago. They're running it. It's a 26-minute film. It was recorded here and filmed here in the Lehigh Valley. Most of the people in the movie I have met, I know, and there's 5 of them are survivors. They're from the Lehigh Valley, and they interview them and they talk about it. If you want to watch it and hear their story, you should. You can go to the PBS website. It's www.wlvt.org. and you can stream the film on demand and watch it. It's free. I suggest that you do that because you're going to hear stories of girls from the Lehigh Valley who were trafficked. One of them, her pimp was her father. Her father, she was 6 years old, and she was taken to truck stops. And she's now about 18 years old, and she's telling her story, and it's horrific. So these things are occurring, and we would like to go around to all of the Rotary clubs in our district and talk about it. We want people to be aware of this, and we'd like for everyone in the district to be involved. I think it would be a great idea if we could do some type of a district, collaboration with all of the clubs to try to raise money to help this horrible happening that's going on. There's, as Patrick talked about, they need somewhere to go in an emergency. There's not an emergency shelter, and they need an emergency shelter that in this area. So that would be something that we maybe could work on. But we thank you for having us. I hope you've learned something. If you want to get involved, you can contact me. If you look at the brochure, there's also an email address that you can contact us at. Does anybody have any questions? I know we don't have much time. Yes?
Are you involved at all with, because there is an emergency house?
Truth for Women?
Yeah.
It is not an emergency shelter.
Isn't it? Okay.
No.
That's
Truth for, yes, and I'm aware of them. I work with them quite a bit. They are a shelter for human trafficking, but it's after they have already been pulled from trafficking, and we're looking for something that's like a 72-hour emergency shelter that, they've gone and done these stings, they've found a prostitute who wants help, and the policeman needs to take them to a safe place where a pimp cannot come and get them. It needs to be a safe, secure place that no one is aware of. And that's the type of thing that we need. It needs to be a 72-hour until they can find a place like Truth for Women to go to. And that's more of a rehabilitation type.
Although even their houses,
It is, yes it is. It's private, you don't know where it is. Yes.
Dee Dee, as Bryce had mentioned, we serve a board called Community Partner for Kids with Bob Russell and Clay Smith. And the most interesting part about that, I've been doing it for maybe 3 years now, it's the out of sight, out of mind that's hard to break in this.
Yeah.
It's a very uncomfortable topic, and people shy away from it. But one of the things that Community Partners for Kids is really focusing on is educating the kids, trying to get in front of them with programs so that they can be educated to understand what the signals are if they're being injected into this sex trafficking world. So just an input, it is. I applaud you guys as well, because serving the board on that, it's the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done. And it's horrific.
Yeah, thank you. It seems to be easier for women than men, from what I've discovered. You may want to get involved in our Anti-Trafficking Week and be a part of that, your organization. Yes?
Following Steve Gould, are you planning on talking to middle school and high school students, since the starting ages are 13 to 14 years old, for victimization?
Sure, we'd love to. We thought that the best thing for us to do would be to talk to other Rotarians. Let's educate other Rotarians first. And I would like to go to other clubs and do this. But yes, we would love to. We'd love to go into businesses. We'd love to go into schools, anywhere that we can just inform people of what's going on. Yes?
It was reported just a few weeks ago, there was an incident in Bethlehem outside of a middle school where someone went in and tried to pick up a young middle school age child, lured her into the van. Now, you don't know the connections between that person and the sex trafficking industry, but those connections can be pervasive in terms of, just an individual who gets a hold of someone like that and knows of other people who are in that sex trafficking industry and be able to pass that child around.
Right.
Now, they don't know, it wasn't successful. The young girl was not lured into the vehicle, and they haven't caught the person either. It was is trying to do.
There's probably a lot of them out there, yes.
Okay, we also attended the Atlanta conference, and at that conference, Thorne, which I don't forget what the actor, yeah, Ashton Kutcher,
Yes.
The actor is a key person in it, and you know, it's also, you know, a very similar group, you know, to help prevention, human trafficking. And I was wondering, is your your RAG, I'm sorry, not wash rag, that's water. I got mixed up. Okay, is your RAG affiliated with Thorne, or is it, you know, just separate?
No, so anyone can start a Rotary Action Group. And there really doesn't appear to be any rules and regulations. But we started it, and again, we were the first people in our district to do it. You can have one here if you'd like, or you can join our group. But it's well known around the world, these Ragus groups. They're all over the world with Rotary. And outsiders can come in. You don't have to be a Rotary member to be part of our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee Dee and Patrick, and we all could rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for coming to tell us your story. You're going to UBC next year. We don't need